Hi there, welcome to the Halftime Huddle. Glad to be live again, midway through the week, hump day for those people who work a Monday through to Friday. It's the day where halfway through the week you think, oh my goodness, what's gone on with the week? And this is an opportunity for you to spend a little time, take a breath, reconfigure. In the sporting terminology, it's the halftime where you get your little orange segments and you get ready to take on the rest of the week. So I've got a lovely bloke to come and talk to you, which I'm looking forward to. I'm loving these live conversations. We've got James West from co-founder of ONLE Networking. I'm looking forward to have a great conversation with him and talk to him about his origin story and where he is, why he's doing what he's doing, and we'll have a great chance to share some ideas and help for you through the week. So without sort of too much faffing around, welcome James.
Hi Mark, how are you?
Good. It's good to finally get you on. I've been looking forward to this, having a chat. Like we were saying beforehand, I caught your lovely wife on Friday at Janine Coombs' book launch. It's exciting to see the other half, and hopefully at some stage we'll get Kelly on as well to talk. So that'll be
Okay,
good.
I'll drag her off of a call now. Let's get her in.
Well, we'll see how it goes. It would be lovely to just talk to you for the time being if she's on the call. But in the meantime, welcome. Like I say, we're going to sort of love to hear about why you do what you do and where you are, in terms of what your journey through business. And really, what I'd love to start this with is what I call origin story. I'm a comic neek, nerd, geek, whatever you want to call it. If I mix them all up, so I love to see which spider bit you and which type of incident brought you to where you are now. So what is your own story? Why do you do what you do now?
Absolutely. So, in the spirit of the Spider-Verse films, if you've heard this before, let's just do it one more time. Where do I come from? Where does Only come from? So, I was a journalist, Mark. That was my trade. I trained to be a journalist. I did magazines for many years back in the glory days where there was a lot of drinking, bit of writing, a lot of editing involved. And I did that for about 10 years. And then I went networking because the business that I was in, the magazines folded, market economics of the time. And I needed work because I was suddenly a freelance writer. It was actually, if you don't know, I run ONLE Networking with my wife. So we're the online business network for people that like people. The reason that I got into networking and my first lesson in networking actually was from that moment. So as a journalist and editor, a lot of the other journalists weren't particularly nice people. No, hang on, let's qualify this. They kind of looked down at the PR and marketing people that were trying to get their attention. And some of them treated them, quite appallingly. And I didn't. I just treated people, I thought we were all on the same team. I was in IT journalism. It wasn't cutting edge investigation. So I just treated people with humility. Like, I just think you should. So when I didn't have a job one day, rather than having burnt bridges and upset a lot of people, I had a lot of sales marketing people that kind of said, yeah, we'll give you some freelance work. So I quickly became a freelance writer. I went to networking to develop the business and get more clients. And I was woeful at it because I did that typical thing of going networking just to see what I could get. I didn't really know how to position what I offered. Hi, look at me, I'm a writer. So what was kind of the reaction. So um, I had to learn how networking worked. This was via a BNI group. And I learned so much. And then I eventually met my wife at a networking group that I realized what a beautiful thing networking can be. I mean, it helps when you've met your wife at a networking event. But if we look purely at numbers, we built our previous businesses, all of my previous client base came via networking, either through networking events or networking in its broader sense of connections of people that I knew that I had good relationships with. So, going back to that example of being a journalist and having good relationships, that was lesson one. Don't burn bridges, treat people fairly just because they can't help you now or they're too small. We get this at networking a lot. Oh, I want bigger businesses. Well, where do you think those business owners came from? Corporate might have the connections that you're looking for. Treat people fairly, and eventually that may pay off. They may be able to help you in the future. So, yes, that's how I got into networking.
Brilliant, and I love the fact that you met your wife there because you could say that dating is just networking for relationships, not business.
It's a very good point, isn't it? And yeah, there's loads of analogies. One of our members, Jess Shales, talks about the fact that why do we talking about networking behavior or social, posting on social media, where in her words, we ask people to get married on the second date. So, hi, you don't know me. Do you want to buy this thing for 3,000 quid? So it's all about, well, of course, no, I don't. We need to get to know each other first, don't we? Which is why what I call hit and run networking don't particularly work. Because if you just pop up at that free event and I go to that one and no one really ever gets to know you or validates what you're about, chances are they're not going to work with you or refer you, are they?
No, absolutely, absolutely, and you're so right. The networking is about the relationship building, and a one-off, coming here, sharing what you do, whether it's a pitch or whether it's just an explanation, is not going to cut it. Really, you need to get to know them. You need to go and have a drink somewhere, coffee, and
How did you get into networking? What was your first sort of experience?
basically it's the same sort of thing. I have always networked. Some of it is I come from an IT background, and when I was in IT, there was a lot of meetups, and there was a lot of places where you go and you would learn a little bit about this technology, or you would hear about this kind of process. And I always, because of what I did, I was an independent contractor, so I was always on the idea of looking for people who I may be able to work with, I may be able to pass them on to work. So I was always looking for relationships for people I might, so my networking was always about, in that instance, building relationships, building people who I could talk to, and it wasn't. And when I went to go to do it for my own business, I had that in mind. I wasn't looking for people to buy what I buy, even though necessarily I network with people in the small business sort of networking groups with people who essentially are my target audience. I'm not looking for my target audience. I'm looking for referral businesses. I'm looking for collaborators. I'm looking for people who I might be able to pass on to the people that I know in my immediate network. That's kind of stuff I'm looking for. But
Yeah.
it, like I
So
said,
you
it
had
comes.
that.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I was going to say
You,
that, but that comes from starting doing my networking when I didn't need the business. If you see what I mean.
yeah, and you learned the right behavior. I think people look at networking as a straight line. I turn up, I pitch to enough people, and eventually someone's going to bite. I think that's how people, and I understand that because I kind of did that when I first went networking. You think it's a kind of binary thing, don't you? Um, Whereas what you're actually doing is building the commodity, if you can call it a commodity, of good relationships, which then leads to, and some of those relationships can become clients, can't they? I
Yeah.
mean, you know, you don't have to beat people over the head with it, but people will often kind of go, I really like you, I know what you do, and I've built that trust in you, I'll work with you, or I can refer you on to someone else. It's when you try and do, I call it prospecting. People think networking is just about prospecting. And I always say, particularly in this day and age, just go onto LinkedIn and send loads of speculative messages and don't waste your time. Because networking, if your only notion is, can I try and sell at someone? Networking is not a particularly efficient use of your time. I just hope you've got a thick enough skin to do the prospecting thing, because I haven't. I don't know about you.
No, no, you're right, and I think, I mean, when I talk to people about networking, I say the trick's in the name. It's not selling; it's networking. You're going out to build a network of people who can support you, or who you can refer to. I mean, because what I do, I mean, this. I haven't really said what we do, but it comes from A Game Masterminds. We run mastermind groups, and there are lots of other people who do the same sort of thing. And I love
Yeah.
having a conversation with other people who do the same sort of thing, because I can't do everything for them. I can't create masterminds for everybody in the whole wide world, and I wouldn't want to. And sometimes I need to know some people for whom I can refer people onto, or people who aren't in my niche that potentially can go and work with other people. And so I love networking with people who are potentially competitors.
Yeah, well, there's a culture of you either subscribe to the culture of abundance or kind of competitive protectionism, don't you? And I
Yeah.
always think, like, we always have this thing at our meetings where someone tries desperately not to say BNI. And I always say, when they start alluding to this thing that I go to or I went to, and I always go, you can say BNI, it's not like saying Voldemort, because we wouldn't exist if it wasn't for BNI, because they kind of invented the concept of formalized business networking events. All we've done, and if you want to know in a very broad sense the difference between BNI and only, BNI is the stick, and that stick's really effective because it makes people perform the behaviors that lead to networking results.
Yep.
Okay, so if you go to BNI, follow the rules, you'll help other people, and you should, if they're also toeing the line, receive help from that network. The problem is it leads to a lot of other problems, like dog ate the homework excuses, because we're human beings,
Yep.
false referrals. Our approach is, rather than the stick, it's the carrot. So I can show you the principles of how to network to get results. I'm not going to make you do anything, but if you come to me and say, well, I haven't got anything, my first question would be, what have you contributed?
Yep.
And that's where people can fall down, because they're like, oh, actually, I've not quite got that attitude head on. But yeah, I mean, I think once you realize that, even BNI doesn't have the cap. How many millions of business owners don't network or
Yep.
do a mastermind group? It will be more than do. So let's work on the principle of, part of the problem with networking and something like a mastermind group is that people have maybe had one bad experience, and the last thing that they want is to see infighting and politics from networking stroke mastermind groups. So I think your attitude's absolutely right. Let's work on the principle that there's something for everyone. We can't possibly kind of deliver what every single person needs. So let's just talk and find the commonality. I'm sounding a bit like a sort of do-gooder hippie now, Mark, aren't I? I do
No, you
mean well.
not exactly. Yeah, but you are right, and even BNI understands that it's about referrals and about networking, not selling.
Yes.
It's the same sort of thing. And BNI works for there are a lot of people for whom BNI works really, really well.
Yeah.
Um, and
Just a quick aside about BNI. Kelly, you've mentioned my wife,
yeah,
co-founder. She did a BNI group, and this shows you, this is a bit of an endorsement for BNI. I would say it's as much an endorsement for networking as a concept. So
yeah,
Kelly went to a BNI group that had 9 members.
yeah,
She did it for years. She was a travel counselor, and she got 74% of her business from that
yeah,
one BNI group.
absolutely.
Because the important thing there is that people, again, I talked about the cause and effect of
Yeah,
pitch to enough people, I'll eventually get a result mentality, which is incorrect if you delve into it. The other misconception about networking is that it only works at volume. So I've got to meet tons of people
mm,
in order to get the result. And what that example shows you, I always quote Dunbar's number. Apparently, we've all got on average 150
yeah,
meaningful connections at any one time. So if you go into a small networking group, but those people are genuinely engaged, looking to help each other, learning about what each other needs. I don't see 8 people, I see 8 times 150. And if I was good at maths, I could tell you what that is, but I'm not. But it's a lot.
You're right, absolutely right. Um, like I said, I started in another group way when around about 2002 3 when I first started coaching, and I started for in a at that time it was a competitor to BNI. It was the Business Referrals Exchange. I don't know whether it's still around or not.
I'm not sure, but I've
But
heard of
it
it.
was a similar type of process, and again, it's the same sort of thing. Um, but it worked really really well for those people for those businesses for whom you understood exactly what that business did. Accountants, plumbers, travel agents, all that kind of stuff. You know what you're buying from them. You know when someone needs a travel agent. Someone mentions, I've been on holiday for a while. Boom, you've got a travel agent. And someone thinks, my plumbing is not working. I've got a problem with my bathroom or whatever. Boom, plumber, decorator, etc. You know who to refer these people on. So just by keeping your ear open, you can find the referrals you need to for those sort of bits. It works a little bit harder when you're not 100% certain, or the business doesn't, the business owner doesn't know who their target audience is, which is why the repetitive trying to explain what you do to them helps all that. But it's brilliant, and the advantage you get from it, and which is why um for mastermind groups, I don't necessarily, if I know someone is in a BNI group and they've got a good BNI group, they don't need a mastermind group, because
Okay.
they've got the support of the people around them. They've got people who they can go to if they've got a problem with their business. They've got a bunch of supportive people behind them that they can go and talk about it. They can go and say, I'm looking for this, or do you know anybody who can help me with this, or I've got this problem, etc. Which is where the mastermind group helps. They don't.
Yes.
Most good BNI groups don't, and we're spending a lot of time touting BNI, and as we should. Most groups like that, they get the support that you get from a mastermind group in the good BNI group.
Yeah.
And from what I learned from you, I think you've taken that kind of that kind of relationship building, networking, support sort of idea from sort of what happens in a good BNI group, and turned it into the only. So that's what I've seen in the people I know who are in the only groups. Would you say the
Yeah, and
same?
that's the trick. And to try to complete the loop of the origin story, the evolution into an online network. So we were resolutely, when we started Only, we came from BNI and a BNI spin-off, myself and Kelly. Then we started a networking group, which was Only, but it was in-person events at nice fancy venues, because Kelly's a bit of a snob and who doesn't want to go to the Four Seasons. It was great fun. We spent a lot of money, and yeah, that's another story. But we always had this idea, Mark, that as much as we valued the depth and the intimacy, the familiarity of networking on a weekly or monthly basis, seeing the same people, we saw the value of that, because that's where you build those. There's a difference between an acquaintance and a connection and someone that really is on your side and is kind of a supporter of you in business, a friend, if you like. Let's face it, a good networking group, these people become friends, right? That's great on a micro level, and that bit's really important for networking. But what about this online piece? Because we're meeting in a room. What's our limit of how far people will travel? 20 miles? That's probably pushing it.
Mm.
So what about all the other people that are out there that could be a good fit for us, could be best friends, could be potential clients and customers for us? And we've got the internet, but no one was really using it. So Only actually stands for online networking live experiences. So that was
Yeah.
it was built into the name, this idea that could we combine the best of both worlds, the depth and intimacy of local in-person networking with the scale, reach, convenience of online. That was the idea. And where it got quite interesting is that people loved what we were doing and our approach to networking, network for people that like people, all the stuff that I've talked about. When we were running online events and we were doing it on Zoom, and even the people that loved us went, yeah, it's good, but no, thank you. They just wouldn't, there was just a missing element to it that they wouldn't fully commit. And the consensus was, yeah, but networking's got to happen with a handshake in person, right? And that was the way. Well, then, because COVID happened, which was actually a blessing for us as a business, because we knew we'd spent 2 years doing Zoom meetings where a lot of other networks, and do you remember, it was very much like, for this month, we're going to move the meeting online until this thing blows over. Do you remember? A month.
Yeah.
That's what people thought it was going to be.
No.
We were able to take all of our groups and go, right, we're going to fold them into this online model. We're already doing breakout rooms. We already know the format changes that are more effective online compared to in person. So we took off quite quickly. And then the idea was, well, let's just scale this out, because rather than trying to run in-person events alongside online, because what you end up there, and you'll probably see this from a lot of hybrid networks, a lot of people are moving away from hybrid networks because on paper, people will tell you they want hybrid. In reality, they will favor one over the other, which in a networking terms, it means you end up with two different networks that almost don't cross over. So for us, let's go fully online. Let's launch in America to see how that lands. And let's just see where we can take this thing. That was the idea.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. I think definitely right. The hybrid nature. There are people for whom online, no matter how many times you can convince them that it's safe for you to travel. You get to meet lots of different people. You get to avoid some of the nervousness of trying to break into a group of people who are standing in a corner having a conversation. So all of that kind of stuff goes away. They just wouldn't go online. And then they have the other people for whom they like the idea of the breakout room, which is, maybe a random shuffle of people into a group, and they get to talk with all kinds of interesting and wonderful people. And they can do it from the comfort of their own room and their own office or whatever. And wouldn't travel, even 15 minutes down the road. They'd rather do this. And you're right. So you get both, and you get a split.
I'd never tried to claim that one's better than the other. We were resolutely in person. We prefer online because I think we've adapted. I think that what's interesting about online that's quite hard to argue is that of the two mediums, in person or online, one of them is accessible to everyone, and that's online. Because what you'll find that the people that love in-person events and activities are typically a certain personality type. They're probably more on the extroverted side. They're probably comfortable with small talk, breaking into rooms with people that they don't know. But there's a kind of quieter set of people, and I'm trying not to use words like introvert, extrovert too much, but you get the idea, don't you? That I have a personality type that says, do you know what, I prefer online because everyone's the same on the screen. No one's going to back me in the corner. It's all structured. I don't have to choose who I talk to because they get put into a breakout room. Certain personality types find that much more comfortable. You can see the agenda, you can map it all out. And the other advantage is that people that literally find in-person events accessible. So whether it be the travel, they can't travel. There's a lot of people that have got caring responsibilities, whether it be young children. Part of the reason we've built ONLE to be the way that it is, we've got a special needs daughter who needs care as if she was a toddler. So we can't be running around all over the place, going to lots of meetings. So can we build a network that's accessible for people that like us, that want to run businesses, but just don't have the luxury of being able to go out for half day once a week or whatever it might be?
No, very, very true. And I think you're right. We were having this conversation. As I said, I met your wife on Friday. We're having this conversation as well. And one of the things it reminded me of is when I first started coaching, way back in early noughties. um, a lot of that the coaching then was on the telephone. There you go. You can tell I'm early noughties. I'm still using the weird telephone thing rather than the whatever it is now. But the early noughties. So we did a lot of conversations on the telephone, which you would think would be putting all kinds of barriers in front of the intimacy. With all kinds of you wouldn't have the same visual cues, and you wouldn't have the same environmental cues that you have when you're in, face to face and even video. But there was something liberating about taking some of those away and just having a single mode of communication, the audio. It also because you have something in your ear. It almost felt like you were having an internal conversation rather than having a conversation with someone else. So I found quite quickly that the relationships that you build, or the empathy and the connection you build when you were on the phone with your coaching client was quicker, stronger than you would in face to face. And some of the thing is the same when you do the virtual sort of Zoom networking, virtual networking, all that stuff. You can build a relationship quite quickly because you're not distracted by the environment per se. You're not distracted by little bits of conversation over in the corner. You're not distracted by all of the other things that are going on. You can have these conversations. You're also protected a little bit by the screen in front of you. So you can be a little bit more open and honest because you've got that level of protection. So I find the relationship you build online are just as rich and just as quickly evolving as you would if you are that kind of person who does well in face to face. So
I think you're right. I think the key is the commitment from both parties. And I think, and this is a little bit cruel, but I'll say it anyway, because it's true. The people that say, yeah, but you don't really build that depth of relationship online, I see a lot of times people very animated when they are speaking. The moment you start speaking, they're over here doing an email. I'm sorry, what do you expect? Because if you did that in person, we're probably not going to build a rapport if that's happening. But I think people forget they're more visible online, because even in a Zoom of 30 people, you can tell the people that are listening, because you get these ridiculous moments where 29 people are laughing and one of them's like that. Maybe they just didn't find it funny. But you can tell because they're over here doing something else or they're on their phone. You're not going to build relationships by doing that.
no, absolutely, absolutely, and like I said, you and I, you come from a previous pre-lockdown from doing this with networking. I come from an environment where there was a lot of sort of virtual hybrid type stuff, and the same sort of thing. When you're in a meeting, when you're talking to people, focus on the meeting and the conversation at hand, not on, even though I have got a notebook, not on the notebook in front of you or the typing to the side. Focus on the conversation you're having, and you're right. You can see the people who see it a lot easier in that, because essentially you're front and center on all of these little mini screens, and you can see the people, like you say, are nodding or talking, etc. So yeah, no, I find it is intriguing, the difference. But I do like also. I mean, it was lovely to meet Kelly in person. So
Yeah.
there is no way around the fact that people like to be in physical environment with
Yeah,
people. Yeah,
it's partly why we've retained regional groups, Mark, because I know there was another network that apparently, because if you think about an online networking meeting, the name of it is quite arbitrary. We could call, I think there was a network that literally gave their groups colors, because yeah, what difference does it make where you are in the world? You're just joining this networking group. But there's two problems with that. One is that it doesn't form any identity. People
yeah,
don't, am I part of the brown group? Am I part of group number 7? it doesn't really mean anything. And it's also the second thing is that even though we don't have in-person events because it excludes people that can't make it, of course, there's nothing stopping you going and having a coffee with the person that
Yeah.
you've met in your group that you resonate with. So it just gives that kind of localized anchor without saying, yeah, you're part of this until we go and meet up as a group, and then you're suddenly not part of it. But it leaves it as an optional rather than a core requirement because, and the simple thing about the scale of the thing is that I ain't going to meet most of the people in our Atlanta group, am I? So if it was a prerequisite to meet in person in order to do business with them, why have we got an Atlanta group that's growing? Why have we got a New York group? It's because you can absolutely do business with people online if you commit to the relationship the way that you would and take advantage. You've talked about some of the pros and cons. Take advantage of it and learn. And it might not ever be your favorite, but sometimes we have to do things in business that generate a result. They're not necessarily our favorite thing in the world to do. Maybe you can do both. I don't know. I think you can.
No, and I think you're right. I think you definitely, um, and that sort of leads me to one of some of the the topics I like to talk about here is the, and again it comes from my my geeky sort of and I got the word right this time, comic nerdy background, is people's superpowers and people's kryptonite. People do have a particular favored mode of communication, favored mode of interacting with people. And you're right, there are times when you have to go out of that favorite mode. I mean, business is definitely a place where you spend a reasonable amount of time out of your comfort zone, because there's going to be things you've never done before. You're not 100% certain before, and having that understanding and being able to recognize what you're good at, what you're not good at, what is going to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and what isn't, it helps as well. And I would imagine, again, going back to, both of us have a similar sort of rationale in terms of background. Having a network of people for whom I tried to do X and it didn't work out, is a great support. And having someone you can physically, if you need to, go and have a cup of coffee and moan about you tried to do so and so and it didn't work out is brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love the idea that you're leaning into into the fact that while your main focus of only is online. I love the fact that you've tied it into a geography as well. So there's a connection with each of the individual groups, which you don't get, like you say. If I'm in the brown group, I'm in the blue group, I'm number one, I'm this name or that name. So, but so
I can't help but thinking of that dialogue in Reservoir Dogs now about Mr. Brown and Mr. Pink, but let's not go into that because that's
no,
not broadcastable, is it?
no, not
Why
really.
do I
No.
want to be in the Brown group?
No, absolutely, it's not really. But like I said, I mean, one of the things we always used to do to try and do when I was creating teams in corporate is to get the groups to try and sometimes a bit cheesy, create their own name. What do you want to call it? To, find out
Mm,
what and give them a little bit of ownership on what it is the group does and how it meets and how it works out, from what are its negotiables and what are its non-negotiables. What are how do you deal with the things that don't quite work out, and how do you deal with how do you celebrate and all that kind of stuff. So giving
that's
it some
nice.
kind of ownership into that helps to take away some of the things. I don't want to be in the brown group. You're in the group.
Maybe we'll put that to our groups. What would you like your groups to be called? That could be a fun exercise. Kelly would love that. Well, that comes on to your question about kryptonite and superpower. I'm what's called politely a critical thinker. That's my kryptonite, is that I have a tendency. I'm very good at, if you give me an idea, I'll find the bit that probably will scupper it or will need fixing, but it gets to the point where I can flatten things because I'm too critical. And poor Kelly, who's we're a really good foil for each other because Kelly is very ideas and enthusiasm and excitement, and I'm like the whoa, but have you really thought this through? And I annoy myself with it because sometimes I'm like, just be bright and breezy about these things. So that's definitely my kryptonite is that I tend to kryptonite other things around me. But my superpower is definitely, I just really like getting to know people. I just find them fascinating. Like the fact that everyone sounds, talks, thinks differently. I'm quite nerdy, so I like to dig into details about what, if you told me, I don't know, that you really liked trains, I'd be like, why? Like, what is it? And I genuinely want to know
Mm.
because I think that's how you broaden your mind and kind of, you know, something that I didn't care about a year ago suddenly becomes something that I do care about because I've dug a little bit deeper under the surface, So, and I think as a networker, if you go into networks and you don't really particularly care about people, you're just looking for a reaction or a result, I think you're going to have a tough time. So I think having a level of curiosity, I think it's helpful in business in general. I do think you're going to have a better time with people because I've never met anyone like, particularly at the moment, what's one of the most sought after and there's so little of commodities available. Attention. Like everyone, all of that we see outputting online, email, social media. Oh, I'll do a podcast because people aren't reading my social media. Oh, I'm going to do video because people aren't listening to the podcast. What's the thing that I'm going to do next? It's all a race for attention. I just think the best way to get attention is to give attention. If you put yourself in front of someone and say, do you know what? I read that. I thought it was really good. And actually, I'm going to show you that I read it or consumed it or listened. What's that person going to do? They're going to look at you and pay a bit more attention, aren't they? So I just think that that's a big advantage to have that curiosity. What about you?
No,
What's
I agree.
yours?
I agree completely. And I we're going back to networking. When I go networking, I'm always intrigued to have one-to-ones, and 9 times out of 10, it's because I'm intrigued about what they're doing. I'm interested in to understand what they're doing, not necessarily because I know that they're going to be a good referral partner or not, or not necessarily because I know that they're going to be. I tell everybody I'm just nosy. I love to hear about what people are doing, and finding out what they're doing, and I think it also it also expands what your offering is. But by talking to people, understanding what other people do, and understanding and listening to what they're doing, and being, like you say, curious and nosy. Nosy gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes, but being nosy about what people do it gives you an opportunity to really cut down. And people love telling you what they do. And there are times when you can, because you're being nosy and because you're trying to dig down a little bit, you get underneath a little bit more because everyone has their initial, especially if they've been on networking, they have their initial here's the sort of things I think you need to know about what I do. But underneath the hood, you need to find a little bit more, and it's by drilling down, by being curious, by understanding that there's a lot more to a person than what they've just said in their 60-minute or 30-second, 60 minutes,
Yeah, they're a
60 second.
wealth of like business research information. I think, if you think about it, if you approach a stranger at networking or online and say, this is what I do you want to buy it? 99% of people, whether they do or do or not, will go, no, thank you, because it's too forward.
Yeah,
They are closed to your inquiry. That's
yeah,
why cold calling is so difficult to do. If you start a conversation by saying, tell me about you, I don't even really want to talk about me. I want to learn about you. I want to learn about your business. I want to learn about your challenges because I'm really interested. They will then ask you what you do and they will suddenly become open to what you're saying in return. But this is where it becomes incredibly valuable, and you pay a fortune in market research. They will tell you, if you're open to it, what you should be selling.
Yeah.
Because, when I was a journalist, I didn't have a product for the small business market. I knew how to write magazines. Who cares? But when I started asking people questions, they started telling me, well, this Twitter thing then, how does that work? How do you build a community? How do you write tweets? How do you do blogs? People keep telling me I need blogs and I need SEO. And I'm like, okay, well, suddenly I've got a service because you've told me what my skill set is adaptable for. But I guarantee I never would have found that out if I'd just gone in at people and went, hello, I'm James. Do you want to buy from me? So it's one of those moments, isn't it, where just your inherent personality opens doors for you. Can you learn how to be curious? Of course you can. I just think, well, if you're not interested, maybe that isn't the right approach for you. But yeah, I just don't know how you get around that really. What's your superpower?
Um, my very much like you, my superpower I think is that I like to listen and hear about people, and I'm quite good at connecting people to other people, because I spend a lot of my time doing this kind of, either doing this or having, conversations with people after networking. And
do you remember everyone's name? Like if someone says, oh, I'm looking for a connect, I need this, and you'll go, oh yeah, John down there. Do you remember them?
Not all the names, no. That's what I use this for. That's what I use for, and then I do a hunt through LinkedIn to see when the hell was I talking to so and so. But yeah, no, I'm not particularly good with names.
Principle though, isn't it? That's important. That the fact that your brain goes in that direction of okay, I think people think when they go networking that their job, if they're trying to help, is to give referrals to people.
Yeah.
And again, that's the very kind of linear, straight line way of thinking about it. The way I look at it is that who do I know that's either in the field that you're talking about or whom I just think you'd get on with.
Yeah.
Because I think if you get on with someone, you've already broken that kind of first step barrier, haven't you? Because that's when they'll get into an open conversation and it'll open doors. But you've got to have a brain that bothers but also works in a way. I mean, that's what the human brain's good at, isn't it? Is making connections that aren't there now. That's what AI is not very good at. It needs a dialogue to kind of tell it that what it can't do is work outside of its own parameters to go, that might connect to that unless you've told it to, which by definition it isn't working on its own accord anymore, is it?
No, you're right. It's great at processing large amounts of data that it knows about, but making leaps in that is not where it's at. Which is where we as human beings still are better, because we, like I said, a brain is there's one of the things where I think our brain is forever filtering a lot of the information it gets. There's a mass of information coming into our minds because of what's going on in the world, and what's happening, and what you're talking about, who you're talking to, the various different nuances, which is sometimes overwhelming. Which the brain basically, I think, has to say, well, I'm looking for X, so which is why. If you say, if someone mentions yellow cars or whatever, you're forever seeing yellow cars because the brain says that is interesting. This person, I won't filter that out. I know that's interesting. It'll go, and that's the same thing with the conversation. When you're looking for connections, when you're looking for curious little interesting snippets from your conversation with people. So going into a conversation with that in your mind. It trains your brain to understand that that's what you're looking for. You're looking for connections. You're looking for interesting facts. You're looking for things that might be slightly out of the ordinary. And the brain serves you up those things because it knows there's a whole bunch of stuff. You could, if you go into a conversation looking, all you're interested in is what's going on in the back of your room. That's all you'll focus on. You'll focus on the little things you've got on your shelf and your only online sort of stuff. That's what you'll remember. If you're looking for having a conversation to find out what they think about in terms of networking, then that's the conversation will root round, because there's so much information out there. The brain has to say this is important, this isn't.
Curation.
Yeah.
That's again is another example. We don't what no one needs anymore is more content. We need more
Yes.
context and
Yeah.
curation, don't we? So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think definitely we've started the little AI sort of conversation, but I think where the next step for us in the journey is the AI. You can get as much, you can get information you want. There's no AI is brilliant at searching through kind of stuff. So if you wanted to learn about something in terms of just the knowledge, AI will give you that. It'll give you that. You know, people's courses and people's all the kind of stuff is not going to be a commodity anymore, because AI can give you that. What is the commodity is the experience, the connection, the communication, the support in terms of taking what you're learning into action, and the support of helping you and keeping you. So that's, you know, networking, the mastermind groups, the group activities, the cohort learning, all that kind of stuff is where we as humans add value that AI doesn't.
Yes, definitely. And a mastermind group is a great place to curate information, isn't it? Daniel Pink talks about the author of Art of Persuasion. He used to say that people were able to sell based on having knowledge that the would-be buyer didn't have. So you walked in a car showroom, the car showroom guy knew more about the car than you did. Now it'd be the other way around. You, as the buyer, probably have done more research and know more about the car than the car room showroom person, which is why that whole model is flipping on its head and we don't buy cars the way we do, because the problem now is curation. I've got all this information. What do I do with it? And it's really hard as a business owner to see the wood for the trees, isn't it? So you sometimes just need to sit down with people who are to a degree unbiased, like a mastermind group, to go, what should I do? Because everyone's telling me this is the definite thing that you should be doing. But is it really? Is it right for me? It's the curation piece, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the piece of, you know, the proof of anything is in the doing and the execution. And you know, when you have people around you who can help and support you, and like you say, filter all this information into actionable steps that essentially, you know, you can get some information back on. With the, you know, I talked a while back with someone you'll know, Vanda Varga,
Yes.
who's a
NLP.
staunch supporter of ONLE. She loves ONLE, but she was talking about, you know, the tenets of NLP, and one of them is, you know, yeah, there is no such thing as failure. It's basically you're getting data out of it, you're getting information out of it, you get learning out of it, and I think that's what you help when you get, when a group of people around you, because you get the confidence to take that step, because you've got your network behind you. Take that step that might result in you getting an outcome that isn't necessarily favorable, or an outcome that isn't necessarily in the direction you really wanted to go, but it gets data, so you have the confidence to take that step. Which I think sort of
Love that.
a network helps, you know, helps you with, because they're there. You know, you go and meet them in the end of the month and you say, "Oh, I tried X and it didn't work," and they're there to give you a pat on the back for trying it, and you know, maybe we can turn that experiment on its head a little bit and try something slightly different.
Love that. Ah, nice one, Vanda.
Yes, see, Vanda. Yeah, I love Vanda. I love having a conversation with Vanda. Yeah, and again, she's a staunch. I can't remember which group she would say it's her home group. I think, is it Fairham or?
Uh, I think she's moved recently. She was Portsmouth. Do you know what? I'm not even sure because I don't go to all of them now. I'd
Well, I
love
was going to
to,
imagine
but there's too many.
you wouldn't be able to. No,
She runs our Only Connect session. We do like a mental health get together, leave business at the door.
yeah.
Let's just come and talk about how we're feeling. And for the right business owner, that's a real
Oh,
that's a
definitely.
lifeline. You know, we haven't. the mental health side of networking is really key. That's a
Yeah.
very, we won't go into too much detail there, very personal to me,
Yeah.
because at a time when my mental health was really poor, networking, bizarrely, and it took me a lot of years and a lot of reading to work out why, networking, when I went to my networking group, it was the one time that I actually felt all right
Yeah.
because I subsequently learned that it provided me with the meaningful connections that I'd lost as a solo business owner
Yeah.
in a not particularly good environment. So I just felt lost. I was
Mm.
bereft. I didn't have the connection with people that I crave. So that's very important for us in Only. Can we provide that for people that can't go to networking events in person? And I'm pleased to say that, again, if you commit to the conversations, you can build those meaningful relationships and feel connected with people in the same boat as you, because it's tough, isn't it, running a business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of those things where a lot of people I know move into running a business for himself. Often the story is, and your origin story has a similar link in that they come from a team type environment. They come from an environment where there's either a corporate or education or some way where they're able to work together, and they've got people to go and talk to. They've got someone who, when they're getting a cup of coffee, they can have a little bit of a gripe about what they're doing, and ask them a question. You go to run a business, and you haven't got that until you find your, as they say, they say finding your tribe, but it's a lot more than that. It's finding your support group. It's finding your family in some respects, the people who you can be vulnerable with. And I think that's what you it takes a while to get that. But when
Yeah.
you find the right group, you can be vulnerable because they share the same sort of experiences as you. They share the same challenges as you. They share the same um, issues in terms of what they're trying to achieve and their frustrations, etc. They share them with you, and that builds a safe space when you're in the right group, a safe space to.
Yeah, and it's palpable because you think about so much of the online experience. It makes me laugh when people talk about authenticity of content. And it's like most of this is the antithesis of authentic. It's manufactured, trying to show that you're clever, knowledgeable, the next best thing. And when people get in an environment where they realize they can say, I'm having a really bad day, or this is doing my brain in, like it's a palpable feeling of relief that they can just be themselves as business owners. Because I don't know about you, I've never met that business owner that I encounter every single day on LinkedIn. Like you'd think no, nothing, we'd all be billionaires, wouldn't we? If we followed that narrative pattern of, because no one ever puts that didn't work, that failed, that blew up in my face. You never see it, do you? And you have to take that. I mean, it's why it's really healthy to kind of take that with a pinch of salt. And I think why we do respond when you do see something a little bit more human on
Yeah.
social media, people go, oh, LinkedIn's got too much like Facebook. And I think they're confusing the idea of sort of flippant clickbait with people sharing a little bit of the truth of their lives. I'm not condoning like go on and moan every day because I don't want to read that any more than I want to read the falseness. But just, and again, we've talked about AI, isn't it hilarious now, the amount of people that haven't realized that if you leave all the emojis in your content, I know it's been written by ChatGPT. It's just so obvious, isn't it? But like, just write something that's real, that you've actually thought about as an original thought, and it'll do it. We can feel it. We're cleverer than we give ourselves credit for, aren't we, Mark? We know when something's just sort of falsified, ticking a box, as opposed to something that feels like, yeah, there's a little bit of soul in that. Do you know what I mean? Do you see that with
No,
content?
I think you're right. I think we are on the AI bandwagon a little bit, but I think you're right. AI has its place, and AI is great for the research. We talked about that. Well, I've mentioned that it give it a bunch of data, and it can analyze that bunch of data and give you Trends give you information that you might not easily have seen if you were doing it yourself. It's brilliant for that, and it's brilliant for seeing sort of the start of a pattern, but you have to imbue that pattern with life from your own experiences. Even if it's just adding little bits of yourself and modifying and changing the language so that it suits what the way you communicate. But you can say I think that there is a certain amount of commodity out there that people will just dump stuff out, and there's a place for just dumping out information. But I think the social media type area isn't the place for it. And the trick I think is in the name social. It needs some kind of connection with the individuals and the community of some kind of level. And I think you're right. I think it is a place where that rawness, that vulnerability, that understanding that success or life is not a straight line. It's messy and jaggedy and ups and downy and as it should be. It shouldn't be straight lines. It would be boring if everybody took the same journey and took the same route. It's what makes us it's what makes the conversations we're having interesting, because people do things differently. They have different ways of doing things. Variety is a spice of life, as they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the other things I like to talk about, and we've probably talked about it a lot anyhow. I mean, part of the rationale of what I do this for is to remind people of the fact that, and we've talked about it, that it's quite tough running a business on your own, and keeping yourself focused. That everybody talks about consistency, but getting up in the morning and taking that step and doing that little piece of thing that will move the dial, even if it's a minute thing, day by day, can be quite hard when you're the only person around. And I'm getting the impression that you sometimes, I mean, I know you have Kelly around you to help and support you with that. You've talked about the fact that you have work together because there is a strength and a weakness that you build on each other.
Symbiotic,
Yes,
Mark. Let's call it
symbiotic.
that.
Yes,
Like
yes.
Venom. I'm the horrible black alien, and she's Tom Hardy. I'm not sure this is working very well.
Tom Hardy, yeah, no,
I'm
indeed.
trying to go with your theme, all right?
Yeah, that's a good thing. When yeah, Venom is a is a great way of carrying on with that theme. But yeah, no. So I mean, is there anything else in your process have you come across, even from talking to other people in your networking group, that you use yourself to help yourself keep focused during the week? Because
Time blocking
yeah,
has been massive for me. I think what I see more and more is that there's so much distraction, and the draw, particularly of social media, we've become not particularly good at holding attention on a task. So whether it be the Pomodoro technique or whatever your version of it is, I think it's what I found that if I have to have blocks of time where I work on something. And Louise Miller, a very fantastic member, and she talks about time management and getting things done. And she talks about this idea of noticing how quickly, if you say, for example, you sit down and go, right, I'm going to build that thing that I've been talking about for ages, and you start working on it. How many minutes in do you go, oh, it's getting a bit tough now, I'll just go and check email? Like that behavior, or I'll go and have a look on LinkedIn. And of course, you never get into any kind of workflow. So for me, just the discipline of going, what's the 2 or 3 things this week that I really want to progress? Block some time out and just work on it. Even that, like I'm still not there because the, you know, I'm good at turning off notifications and things like that because that's someone else's agenda, not mine.
mm,
So I do turn off notifications, but there is still the draw of it's going to be because your brains wants to take the shortest path, doesn't it? So if I'm trying to get tasks done, it's going to be easier for me to reply to an email or a direct message on LinkedIn than it is to build that training course. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's bringing yourself off back on track with a bit of time blocking. I'm very lucky that I've got some great people around me. I've got very positive. Kelly's very positive. Our daughter also works for us. She's just like Kelly. She's really positive. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know what else I can tell you. Like, I don't think there is sort of a magic formula. Mine's quite a roll up your sleeves. If you're looking for an app or a technique, like, no, you've just got to get things done and work on the things that you believe, to your best current knowledge, are going to progress your business, and put all other considerations to the side. That's the best I can come up with. What about you?
No, I think you're right, and I love the idea of the fact that you're noticing when when you move away from your topic, because I'm always of the viewpoint that it's not falling off the bike that's the difficult bit; it's getting back on.
Mm,
And that's the thing I think that makes I can't remember who it was. It might have been Seinfeld talks about streaks. He loves a streak. To tick out. I've done one day of this, another day of this, and that kind of stuff. Having that momentum keeps you focused. But there are going to be times when you miss a day, or you fall off, or you've got a block of time, and you've got a task that you need a little bit of extra information off. So you've got to go and fire up the browser to do that little bit of a search, and then all the distractions come back again. And but it's that recognizing that you've got to get back and keep doing that, and every time it's like I think that's my, if I had a trick, that's my trick, is recognizing, not beating yourself up for falling off the bike, but congratulating yourself for getting back on.
love that.
And that's I think is one of my challenges, and it's we all do it. We all get distracted. We all find a little bit of thing, and sometimes it's right. I mean, I know, and we will, and this is going to lead on to the next thing I want to talk about. I'm reading a book at the moment called Tiny Experiments, which talks a little bit about the idea of being, making sure you have little experiments. You try little different things. You don't beat yourself up. You block a little bit of time if it works. You have tiny steps you take. So having that idea helps, I think, to allow you to recognize that you're doing small steps, and understanding and celebrating the small steps. So
That sounds great. I've seen that book. Is it good then? It's going well.
yes, I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, it's good. Which will lead me on to the conversation that I've primed you on a little bit. I For those people who've heard this, they've probably heard me talking about where I nicked this idea from. So it's a Tim Ferriss idea, where he talks about people who read a lot and understand and are curious are always reading, and their favorite book is often the last one that they've read, or the one they're reading currently at the moment, etc. But what stands the test of time is a book that they would recommend to other people. And so, what would be that book for you?
There's two. There's one very quickly that was quite personal for me at a time of my life where and this was actually, it might have been before Vanda, before I got to know Vanda, but the idea that internal dialogue dictates your worldview and how you act. And the book that really helped me was Flip It. I think it's Michael Hessel. It's quite a famous book, but it's about this notion that the premise is, if the same event happens to 100 people, why doesn't everyone react the same way? And of course, the only logical conclusion is it's how you position that event activity in your mind and how you relate to it. So the idea of, can you flip, there's always a positive to each negative, and flipping it. So that was really helpful for me, because negativity has been a kind of challenge for me over the years, to start to reframe. So that, I find that book really helpful. The other one, actually, Brian bought me this book. So I've only just got it, so I shouldn't recommend it. But I know lots about this person. So Kobe Bryant,
Yeah,
basketball player. I love sport. I don't tend to get particularly inspired by. I think a lot of business comes down to discipline, and endurance and resilience and creativity. And I actually identify that in sport more than I do get inspired by that by business people. Don't know why, just because I think I gravitate towards sport. So if you think of NBA basketball, whether you know a lot about it, they play 82 game seasons.
yeah,
It's a slog plus
yes,
playoffs. So if you're winning the NBA title, you're playing 130 games or whatever it is. It is a real war of attrition. And Kobe Bryant, if you don't know anything, sadly he's passed away, isn't he? But if you don't know anything about his work ethic, it's basically all based on the idea of not only having a better work ethic than everyone else, it's learning to enjoy the process. There's a
yeah,
quote from him about when he was young, it was all about the flash and the trying to be the best, and then the realization that if you can enjoy the worst bits, like the ice baths because you've wrecked your knee because you've played another, overtime game. If you can learn to enjoy that, that's when you're winning. Because the process, if you get to the end of the rainbow and you've earned your 50 million quid or whatever it might be, great. If you didn't enjoy any of it along the way, kind of what was the point? Do you know what I mean? And I
yeah,
think you can, to bring, if you don't have something about what you do that you love and it is just a job, and this is probably my final comment on my journey. When I met Kelly, we built websites. That's how we made our money. And we were really good at it. And we built a lot of websites, and it gave us a level of satisfaction of debunking websites for people. But it didn't really do anything for our soul. Whereas networking and the potential that that's got to connect people, open doors, have a meaningful impact on people's lives, and some of the examples we see of that, that gives us goosebumps. So when things are hard, and believe me, Mark, even though the business is going really well, we have days where we're like, should we just pack it in and go and get a job? Like we have
mm,
that, as I'm sure all businesses do,
yeah,
and we've got each other. What is the thing that's going to make you go, it's worth it. Let's just keep going and get over these bumps. And it's something like that. That can you enjoy the purpose of what you're doing? And can you remind yourself to enjoy the bits of the process that you already enjoy and make the ones that you don't enjoy somehow a little bit more enjoyable? So Kobe Bryant's taught me how to do that. Thanks,
brilliant,
Kobe.
brilliant. Thanks for that. Those are two brilliant books. And I will add them to my list. I love hearing any people's books, and you're so right. Part of the reason I call what we call it a game is because I think it's the gaming and the process and that makes it important, and even and you talked about finding the joy in the process. Part of being a game is the joy of doing it, the excitement of it, and business when run properly and when run with the right sort of people is a joy. It is fun, and even the tough bits. And I do understand exactly how you feel about it. There are a lot of people out there for whom they go into a business because they have a desire and a love to do what they do. There are people for whom writing is, you talk about going write. They love to write and they love to write for other people. And they think, going as a freelance journalist or a freelance, copywriter or whatever, they're going to spend a lot of time doing the thing they love doing. Pity they didn't know when they started a business that's going to be on the wrong side of the 80/20 rule, and they're going to spend a little less time doing what they love doing. So they better love some of the other bits as well. So yeah, so thank you for that book. That's brilliant. I said this at the beginning, and I've said this for every time. We could go on forever. I will definitely see if we can bring you back on again because I've loved our conversation. And it's been. I hope people have found it useful. And just to shout out, we've had following us along, and I'll put on some of his comments. We've had fellow guest on the thingy, Mr. Braithwaite, talking about Hippie James. So he's been there from the beginning. So thank you, Jay, for listening to us. And there you go. Here's his comment on emojis. He loves his emojis. Yeah, and for those people who can see this rather than hear this, because this will be coming out in audio as well. Some of the emojis he's put on there are emojis that you would put on adult. These aren't probably safe for work emojis.
And to be fair to Alan, if you read his content, there's no way that AI could write that, because you'd have to break AI to make it sound like Alan Braithwaite. There's only one Alan Braithwaite.
There is, yeah. That's the song. There's only one Alan Braithwaite. Yeah, it's a football chant we'll have to have. Yes, indeed. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, and I look forward to many more conversations. For those people who have just come across you just now, where's the best place to find out more about you and learn more about ONLE?
If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will message you back, because there's no point being connected with people that you don't instigate a conversation with. So go that route. If you want to come along to ONLE, the ONLE.network, there's a free visit code on there. Come and meet us. Come and meet me and Kelly. We'd love to see you.
Brilliant. So lovely to speak to you. There you go. Have a look at him. There you go. Thank you. And thank you for listening to us, Alan. And we will speak to you soon. Thank you very much for this. I will speak to you soon, and we will have more of these wonderful long-reaching conversations. So thank you, everybody. For those people who, like I said, have found this on the replay or whatever, then brilliant. I'd love to hear more from you. If you'd love to come on, I am looking for anyone to come and have a chat with. I said before, and if you listen to some of this, I'm always nosy and curious, so I'd love to have anyone to come and talk to. But in the meantime, it's Wednesday, hump day. I hope the second half is going to be your best half, and I will see you next week.